I will start it off with my first pick of the Week 14 Sunday six-pack. I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers -1 at the Cincinnati Bengals. And this line, hopefully you saw me posted in the app. I actually got it at a +2. It's up to -1. I'm still going to roll with it for the contest, but not quite as much value. I still think the Niners win this game, which is why I'm still taking the -1 here. But I look at this Niner team, and both of these teams, by the way, are banged up. So, people, you could probably make a case for each side in terms of, oh, this guy's hurt for this team, this guy's hurt for that team. But what it comes down to for me is a couple of things. Number one, San Francisco is just a better team. They're 7th in overall DVOA. Cincinnati's 19th. San Francisco's offense doesn't get enough credit. They started off a little shaky and they were trying to mix Trey Lance in. Shanahan openly admitted that was kind of slowing him down in terms of his play calling. He wasn't at his best when he was trying to mix in Lance, because he's a guy that kind of reads, sets up a play with a play later. And it just, they get different coverages when it's Jimmy G versus Lance. So that's really helped this offense come together. They're 4th in pass DVOA and 6th in run DVOA. And that's not a fluke, because the big edge San Francisco has in his game is in the trenches. You look at their PFF grades on the offensive line. They're 3rd in run blocking. They're 7th in pass blocking. Cincinnati is 16th in run blocking, 23rd in pass blocking on offense. So that's why if you look at these two offenses, you might think Cincinnati's more talented, which they probably are. I mean, you got Jamar Chase, you got Burrow, you got Higgins. But the issue is the blocking hasn't been as good, and that's what's holding Cincinnati back. But San Francisco has a top 6 offense here. And then San Francisco is one of only 2 teams in the NFL that's been better than the Bengals in red zone offense. San Francisco's number 1, Cincinnati's number 3. So I always say you need to score to beat Cincinnati. They're going to put points on the board. They have talent on offense. But my issue for Cincinnati is, yes, I know San Francisco's banged up. Debo probably won't play. Mitchell's in the protocol. Hopefully he gets cleared. San Francisco can still run on anyone with any back because of their line and their scheme, but Mitchell's been excellent. So I do hope he's back. But running backs really aren't worth much to the spread, if anything, except like Derrick Henry, maybe Taylor. But you look at Cincinnati, and what really concerns me for them is Joe Burrow's finger injury, because we've seen this before. The finger injury, Taysom Hill gets a finger injury, he throws 4 picks. Like, Taysom Hill, never a great passer, but 4 picks, he's usually a guy, like, he's not going to turn the ball over like that. We've seen Russell Wilson come back probably too early from a finger injury, and it took him another 3 weeks to get right from that. And now Burrow, he's going to play through it. He's a tough guy, but we all saw him on the sideline. That's obviously bothering him. He didn't have a very good game after injuring the finger. And on top of that, T. Higgins isn't practicing. That's big, because he's been more productive than Jamar Chase lately, and he's allowed, defenses are kind of zeroing in on Chase. He's allowed the Bengals to still be productive despite their propensity to turn the ball over, despite their kind of shaky to below average blocking. So he would be a big loss if he's not close to 100% or is out. And then Joe Mixon's also not practicing. I think he's going to be all right, but just kind of I think it's going to be an ugly practice week for the Bengals, even though they're at home. San Francisco's the more physical team. It's December football against the injured Bengals team. So give me the Niners -1. And to give me a little help, I got the 94 Jerry Rice on because might need to throw it to win against this Bengal team here. But give me the Niners -1.
Yeah, I mean, since week 8, the 49ers offense between week 8 and week 13, number 1 in EPA per play. The Bengals, by the way, are 24th. And a lot of that is because of play calling, right? I trust the 49ers play calling more so than, I think the Bengals play calling just at times really holds them back. And you're right about the finger. The 49ers secondary injuries are a bit concerning.
Boldly, that's a big loss. And that's Chase in fantasy. Chase is like my wide receiver 5. He should go off. That's a big loss. And that's why I say the Niners probably going to have to throw it a little bit to win this game.
Yeah, I don't mind this over because, the 49ers offense, I think, could have a lot of success. You also, it doesn't look like Awuzie is going to play for the Bengals. Brutal. And he's been great. I mean, he's been, per PFF, I think he's been a top 10 corner this year.
Logan Wilson, big loss.
Logan Wilson is out. He's been playing as their best linebacker in a group that's probably their weakness, and that's not good against the San Fran team that can run on anyone and has a healthy George Kittle. The other really, the other talented piece that gets pressure. The Bengals aren't a team that's going to get a ton of pressure off the edge, but Trey Hendrickson's going to be the one that has to supply that. Well, you have Trent Williams to kind of neutralize him. So, yeah, I agree. I think that, this Bengals team is very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I think the 49ers are a clear superior team here. Injuries kind of on both sides. I think I think where the 49ers would actually get a leg up in the injury department is if Deebo Samuel is actually able to play.
Oh, yeah.
He's day to day. I don't think he's going to play, but there's a chance.
Warner practice too. So that's also big when you have like Burrow, Mixon, and Higgins, messed up. Having Warner back there, that really stabilizes the defense, which is another reason why I jumped on San Francisco early.
Yeah, I don't mind San Fran. I don't mind the over here. All right, for my first pick of the Sunday 6-pack, I am going with the Cleveland Browns -2.5 against the Baltimore Ravens. Trying to keep my undefeated streak alive on Ravens games. Unfortunately, I have to, in the Sunday 6-pack, I have to fade them for a second straight week. I was so happy that Harbaugh went for 2 last week because of my bet. And I think that the Ravens will ultimately end up beating like either the Rams or Packers at home, maybe the Bengals, and then they'll close out the year with the Steelers with a win at home to get to 10 wins, which will get them into the playoffs. But I don't think this team is going anywhere. They're just, look, you get in and anything can happen, but they're not going to get the 1 seed. It doesn't look like, I should say. And there's just too many injuries. It's like all of the fail safes of the dam have broken. All the injuries, they've already led the NFL in IR, players on the IR. And then last week you lose Marlon Humphrey, who is all pro corner, one of the best corners in the NFL. And now you don't have 3 of your original 4 starting defensive backs. It is rough. They also lost their right tackle, and that ended up being a huge factor against TJ Watt and company, and things won't get any better this week against the Browns edge rush. But this is a horrible situational spot for the Ravens. I just can't think of a worse one. This is the Browns are coming off of a late season bye, which they desperately needed, right? They were really banged up. Baker Mayfield in particular, they needed some rest. They, played 12 straight weeks without a bye. And before the bye week, they played the Ravens in Baltimore. And again, they probably should have won. And they have 2 weeks. So they are prepared for the Ravens for a week. They have 2 weeks to rest and prepare for the Ravens again. They've basically been preparing for the Ravens for 3 weeks. And this game basically determines their season. They lose this game, they're done. Presumably. They win this game, they're back in the mix, in the division, in the wild card. And they've had 3 weeks to prepare. Meanwhile, the Ravens last week were on the road. This will be their second straight road game in Pittsburgh at a really physical game that went right down to the wire. And they lost 2 key players and got beat up. So, just situationally, this is a dream spot for the Browns. You finally have Hunt and Chubb healthy. The receivers are getting healthier. Mayfield got time to heal up. Their defense is as healthy as it's been all year. And, this Ravens team just isn't playing well. And this is my team. By the way, I'm going to be at the game in Ravens here with a Browns -2.5 ticket. So that should be interesting. But since week 6, the Ravens offense, 22nd EPA per play, 26th in dropback EPA per play. Their defense, 26th in EPA per play, 28th in dropback EPA per play. There's regression coming. If you look at the regression profiles of both teams, Ravens number 1 in the NFL in third down defense. Cleveland is 26th. Yet the Browns are 2nd in success rate, 12th in EPA per play on early downs. The Ravens are 28th in EPA per play on early downs, 10th in success rate. Meanwhile, the Browns are getting healthier and coming off bye, and the Ravens are not getting any healthier. Ravens offense also 70% on 4th down, number 1 in the NFL. They're always going to be probably up there, more towards the top. But the Browns, you would think too, but they're 43%. That's 26th. How about the Ravens defense? Number 1 in red zone D, Cleveland 27th. So there's a lot of, I think, regression coming for both of these teams. I just don't think Lamar Jackson also is completely healthy right now. He just looks a little off. He's dealt with an illness. He's dealt with an injury this year. Since week 7, only Trevor Lawrence and Tyrod Taylor have been worse in terms of EPA plus completion percentage over expectation among 34 quarterbacks with at least 100 snaps. That's bad. So, I mean, there's something going on with this Ravens offense. It's not right. And they were just, look, this team has been kind of smoke and mirrors for a lot of the year. They went sick before last week when they lost a 1-possession game. And by the way, there's a reason they went for 2. They must have really liked the play. But John Harbaugh, after the game, said, we didn't have any corners left. That's not what you want to hear in going into week 14. And, before last week when they lost that 1-possession game, they were 6-0 in 1-possession games, including 2 in overtime, many of them crazy comebacks in the fourth quarter. First, third team in the last 40 years to have 5 fourth quarter comeback victories in their first 10 games. So this team was a lot of smoke and mirrors. I think they're trending in the wrong direction. I think the Browns get the revenge in a great situational spot. So give me Cleveland laying under a field goal here.
I guess the only way for me to continue is to give you my second overall pick and the third overall pick of the Sunday 6-pack, because I'm going with your Baltimore Ravens plus 2.5 against the Cleveland Browns. I hear you. Baltimore's not playing well, but I think Baltimore wins this game.
You're fading me in a Ravens game?
I'm fading you in a Ravens game. Hey, you're due for regression too. What if you? It's like 8 straight Ravens Cup. You're right on, but
that's true.
No, I do think there are some things that benefit the Ravens here. And like, listen, I get it. I've watched every game. I know Baltimore is not playing well. I bet against them last week. We both did. But I look at Baltimore, and let's start with the defense, because everyone's worried about Marlon Humphrey's absence. That's big. He's their best corner. I get it. But you're playing Cleveland. There might not be a better team this side of Detroit to play without cornerbacks than against Cleveland. Because what does Cleveland want to do? They want to run the ball. They don't even have Odell Beckham to give you that that sense of you got to cover more than one guy. So now it's just all Jarvis Landry. You can take care of that, because Cleveland, it's not like Jarvis Landry's going deep every play or anything like that.
No, they could have Schwartz back this week. You could have Higgins activated.
Oh, come on. Anthony Schwartz both of these guys have been healthy scratches. Like these guys aren't like, all right, those guys aren't consequential receivers. Like, you wouldn't add anything to the spread for Cleveland if those guys played, is what I'm saying. Like,
but you're saying potential deep threats to worry about. Like, Schwartz will just be
but I'm saying, like,
Peoples Jones,
you're gonna single cover those dudes regardless, is my point. Like, Beckham, it's like you might shift safety, like you do things with your safeties. But all right, let's look at Baltimore scheme, and maybe they play a little more zone now that they don't have corners, but we know Wink Martindale, he plays man, and he's going to play man. Cleveland averages almost a yard more per attempt versus zone than man coverage. So I still think Baltimore's going to play man, and I still think they can, because even if you have Higgins and Schwartz and all those guys healthy, Jamarcus Bradley, whoever, you're going to single cover those guys. So I don't actually think the Humphrey loss changes their scheme in this game. Now, yeah, everyone's like down on the Baltimore defense right now. And yes, we know that third down, red zone does regress to the mean. It's hard to continue, but you're still talking about the number 1 third down defense and the number 1 red zone defense. Baltimore still knows how to play situationally. They're better coached, I think, on both sides of the ball. But more importantly, and this speaks to what happened with Cleveland, they got Baltimore to turn it over 4 times with Lamar Jackson on those interceptions, and they lose 16-10. Why? Because Cleveland offensively is terribly situationally. They're 25th on third down, and they're 22nd in the red zone. They're also 27th on fourth down, on offense. So this Cleveland team, it's like, to me, the Cleveland team is kind of smoke and mirrors too. It's like, and I've been wrong on Cleveland. I bet them, I won the bet on them, betting the Bengals against them, but lost the bet on them with New England. They got blown out. But I think this is why they struggle with this situational football. I know they're a little bit healthier, but Baker Mayfield still messed up. Like, I'll take Lamar over Baker. Even this version of Lamar over Baker, who's turned it over more than he's had touchdowns over the past 6 weeks. I'll still take that version of Lamar over Baker. And then the same issues with Cleveland extend to the defensive side of the ball situationally. 26th on third down, 27th in the red zone. So Cleveland might have the better metrics and they might be able to move it up and down the field. And you might feel good about your bet at certain points, but I guarantee you there's going to be a point where Cleveland just goes and just messes this thing up. And then, so let's look at the other side though. Baltimore on offense. I know Baltimore's been struggling lately, but this could be a get right game for Baltimore. Number one, I don't think Jackson's going to throw 4 picks again, after they just played him a few weeks ago. But Cleveland runs zone at the 4th highest rate. They're probably going to do that in this game because it's hard to put man coverage on the Ravens. Really, the Dolphins are the only team, I think, that's done a truly successful job at that this year. But 2 yards more per target is Baltimore versus zone than man. And remember, Cleveland zone 4th highest rate, 8.5 versus zone, 6.5 versus man. So you'd like to play man against Baltimore. I don't know if Cleveland does it. That hasn't been their tendency. And then situationally, Cleveland coming off the bye, but a lot of the value of those has been bet out lately. You haven't really seen an edge with home teams, home favorites coming off a bye, but we have seen an edge with Harbaugh in these spots. That loss against Pittsburgh was the first time in Harbaugh's career that Baltimore did not cover in a divisional road game from week 10 on, excluding week 17, because a lot of times you're dealing with rest. But from weeks 10 to 16, the Baltimore Ravens under Harbaugh, 11-1-2, 92% against the spread in divisional road games. The Ravens are 30-21 with 3 pushes, 59% against the spread with Harbaugh as a road underdog. And Lamar Jackson's still 61% against the spread in his career on the road. So I think the Ravens are still the better team here. I get that Cleveland's coming off the bye. Ravens aren't playing well. I just see some advantages for the Ravens in this spot. Namely that I don't think the Humphrey loss is going to hurt as much in this game. And by the way, the Ravens are still top 5 in DVOA against the run. So, and they're 8th in pressure rate. Mayfield, 33rd out of 37 quarterbacks in PFF grade under pressure. So I just think this is a Mayfield pressure spot. I still think you're going to see some blitzes because I still think you can play man coverage even without Humphrey. So let's go head to head with the good old 4-point swing for our contest in this one. Cause a lot of times if we have the same pick, I'll go with it for like a 1-pointer, but I honestly like the Ravens as a top 2 pick this week. So I don't feel good about it, but
let's battle it. I agree with you that the bye is a bit overrated, but this is a different situation in that you're playing the same team you played before the bye. Like how often does that happen?
But you won while committing 4 turnovers. And I get that, like that's supposed to reverse, but like that's the whole point. It's like Cleveland still couldn't win that game. Like what makes you think they're gonna win this one?
It is unprecedented that you get three straight weeks of preparation for one team with your season on the line. I think the sense of urgency will be with Cleveland here, and they should look a lot healthier, I think, after this bye week. They've needed a bye, I think, more than any other team in the NFL. All right, let me move on to my second pick of the Sunday 6-pack. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. You can get a cheap hook out there. Will you give me a cheap hook? I'll owe you a cheap hook.
Okay. Can I get the 0.5 for San Francisco? So they just have to win the game. All right. Yeah. So you could get the 3.5 then. Cause at BetMGM, just to be clear, and the reason we're doing this is because at BetMGM, the Niners are -1 and the Bills are +3, but there are spots you could get a 3.5. So I'll give you that for the contest so that if they lose by 3, you win that, since we don't reward pushes here on the Action Network podcast. So yeah,
I wouldn't play this at 3. But I would play this at 3.5, and it's at BetMGM right now. It's a juice 3 towards the Bucs. But look, when I look at this game, the Bills last week basically shot themselves in the foot, and they were playing in conditions that ended up not favoring them. I mean, the wind was so much worse than I thought, but their play calling on first down was awful. They were trying to run it. They were too afraid of the wind. And I really didn't take much from that game. It's one of those just crazy games that you can't really take. I mean, the Patriots completed 1 pass the entire game. Just a wild game, one of those wild weather games that you can't take too much from. The Bills are still number 1 in the NFL in DVOA defense. And they've been a little, Jekyll and Hyde on offense, which I'll get into, but their defense has been pretty dominant all year long outside of one game against the Colts. Power running team that had, just was on a mission that day, playoff revenge, and came out and just whooped their ass. You're going to have a couple games like that every year. But other than that, their defense has been dominant, and the loss of Trey White does hurt, and it will hurt here. But I don't mind Dane Jackson as a backup. He's going to be, you're going to have to give him more help. You're not going to be able to be as flexible without Trey White. He's one of the best corners in the AFC. But I don't think they have just a, complete scrub on the outside of corner. Brady's going to be able to move the ball here, but this isn't a power running team. This isn't, maybe if they want to come out and run with Fournette, fine. Take the ball out of Brady's hands. But this is like a team that the Bills match up pretty well with. And on the other side of the ball, this is the team that I think, especially after last week, when the Bills, they're a very smart, analytically driven staff, one of the best staffs in the entire NFL. I think they shit the bed last week. But after seeing them fail trying to run on first downs, you've seen them make drastic corrections on a week-to-week basis after a loss. I don't think you see them try to run once here. And you're not going to be able to run on Tampa. Tampa's secondary dealing with some injuries. They've been shuffling guys in and out. All your Jamel Dean's in concussion protocol. But I think Josh Allen can attack this secondary. And I just think this is a great matchup for the Bills, especially if you're getting the hook here. I still think the Bills power rated as the second best team in the NFL. I would take them plus 3.5 against anybody on any field, anytime. And they are completely desperate for this win. And it's a team that, you look at their record and you say, look, they're 7-5. Why is their offense so much different than last year? Well, Josh Allen's accuracy has regressed a little bit. He's looked pretty good though the past couple weeks. Made some great throws in 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. But had probably his best game of the year against the Saints. But they've also dealt with a lot of other issues. They had, Spencer Brown, their right tackle, John Feliciano, who I think will be back this week. They've only played in 2 games together, and they put up 31 and 38 points against the Chiefs and the Titans. When they don't have Spencer Brown on the right side, they put Williams at tackle. It's a disaster. And Allen has been under fire and pressure from all avenues all the time. There's also just an extremely unlucky aspect to this Bills team this year, and I think there's major regression coming. Look at all their one possession losses. I think they're, what are they, 0-5, 1-5 in one possession games this year. So they've been right there. Their red zone offense, their EPAs per penalties lost, their EPAs per turnovers lost. So all their penalties and turnovers have come in such critical times. Variance, fluky. How about their fourth down offense? 33%. So there is just a lot of things on this offense that I think have been unlucky. Spencer Brown now back at right tackle. Your wide receivers are now healthier. Beasley was dealing with some issues, and I think they just come out and throw, and Allen can attack this secondary, which has just been trying to find its continuity all year. Desperate Bills team off a loss, needing a win. Bucks just kind of, they obviously are still going to have incentive to win every game, but they're sitting pretty, right? They're winning the division. Did they clinch the division already?
If they beat the Bills, they probably don't lose again all year. They have Carolina, they have the Jets. It's a pretty doable schedule for the Bucs.
Yeah, so they're kind of fat and happy and kind of relaxed here. And this is an out of conference game against the Bills. I don't think they really show everything. I think the Bills come out with their hair on fire, with a great game plan, well prepared. Can Brady lead them back at the end? And Bucks win by a field goal. And then the loss of Trey White hurts, sure. But I think the Bills are going to win this game. I still trust them. And but I from where I make the line, I do need the hook. You can get a plus 3.5 out there for minus 115, which is fine. So give me the Bills. Let's circle the wagons.
Yeah, I have this at 3. So I can't fault you for taking it with the hook. The one thing that worries me, I do think, Tampa Bay's run defense doesn't matter as much against the Bills. At least it shouldn't, because the Bills shouldn't want to run here. I think both offenses will have success. My worry is Tampa Bay at home has been even better offensively. That's when they've been at their best. And I really am worried about the loss of Trey White, because not just his skills, but look at the Bills starting corners with what is it, Johnson, Wallace, and Dane Jackson. None of those guys weighs more than 192 pounds. Now, that's going to be tough going against Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who's one of the bigger slots. And now Brashad Perriman is starting outside. He's a big guy as well. But more importantly, as you kind of alluded to, without Trey White, you're going to have to give your corners help on Evans, especially on Godwin, who just went straight nuclear last week. But what does that do? That takes away from the Bills' tight end defense, because the Bills, remember, they're every year you can pretty much bank on them being top 5 against the tight end. Like, they are excellent against the tight end because of their 2 safeties. But if those guys have to give help, now what are you doing with Rob Gronkowski? Because that normally would be an advantage for the Bills. One of the best tight end defenses in the league. So I just worry that they're going to be able to get exploited on defense. So it really is going to be a shootout. So yeah, with the hook, I don't hate it, but I worry about their margin for error. Like, if they don't convert like one of their red zone trips or something like that, it might be rough out there, because I think the Bucs are going to be able to throw on this team just because of the size advantage they're going to have at pretty much every receiving position. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. For my 3rd and the 5th overall pick of the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I am holding my nose and betting against the Green Bay Packers with the Chicago Bears plus 12.5 in Lambeau. No one's going to be on this. I mean, I think something like 81% of the bets, 97% of the money is on the Packers here.
Who's starting at quarterback? That's all I need to know.
Justin Fields. Justin Fields has been
confirmed.
Yep, he's starting.
Because there was a chance that Foles was going to start.
No, they said Justin Fields will start. As we record this on Wednesday, the reports are that Justin Fields will start this Sunday night game. I will have a write-up on this, but listen, it's ugly. This is not for everybody, but this is what we do here. I looked up and down the slate, and this is the 3rd best pick, given the way that we picked here. And Green Bay has played 12 games this year. They've been great. Well, they have 2 losses against the spread. They're 10-2 against the spread. They played 12 games this year. Only 3 of them have ended with Green Bay winning by 13 or more points. 3 of them. Okay. Chicago has played 12 games this year. There's 4-8. We know how bad they've been. Only 3 times all year have they lost by 13 or more points. So this is just too many points. Especially the total for this game is around 43.5. Late season divisional game. We know those tend to be tight. You're in Lambeau, cold weather game. Road underdogs since 2003, getting 11 or more with a total of 46 or less, are 131, 92-1, 59% against the spread. When you look at only divisional games, it jumps to 54 and 31, 64% against the spread. Rodgers still taking some practice time off. He did not practice Wednesday with the toe injury. Devontae Adams didn't practice. I mean, this is going to be a game where Green Bay wants to handle its business, hold serve at home, get out of here with a win. But I don't think you're going to get Green Bay's best stuff. I don't think that this team should be favored by 12.5 when they won 3 games a year by 13 or more. And same thing with Chicago. And I think Justin Fields, listen, it's been ugly earlier on, but I think he's kind of turned a corner in terms of understanding when to scramble. He rarely scrambled in his first few starts, but in the last few, he scrambled a lot more. If they're going to play him, that means he's good to go. I don't think they would risk any type of injury here. So I'm banking on him being able to run around a little bit. I know Green Bay looks like they might even get Jair Alexander back, although without Allen Robinson, I don't think it's as big of a deal. I mean, I don't think Allen Robinson is going to play anyway, but I just think the Bears are going to be able to run it with Montgomery. keep it within, maybe they lose by 11 again, kind of like they did to the Cardinals. But that kind of shows you, you had this Cardinals game. Cardinals, one of the, if not the best team in the NFL right now. It ends on 11. Maybe you get a backdoor with Fields here. I trust him a little more than Dalton. So just too many points here when both of these teams have only done this in 25% of their games. So give me the Bears plus 12.5 at the Packers.
Yeah, I think that this line is too high. So I agree with you. And I'm not surprised that the Packers off by how much they've been covering and how bad the Bears have been, that it is too high. You're paying a tax on the Packers here. So I agree. I probably will join you on the Bears. It's in a dead zone right now. Maybe I want to see if we can maybe get to 13. So I would recommend that. Well, I know it's your play, but it's at 12.5 right now.
Yeah.
We have
at 97% of the money.
If it goes to 12, if it goes to 11.5, that's not a big deal. Games rarely end on 12. But there's a lot more value if it goes up. And, as we get closer to Sunday night. But I agree. I think this line is too high. When these two teams played, and remember, it's a divisional game, so home field doesn't mean as much. There's more familiarity. It's less travel. And, when these two teams met early in the year, when Justin Fields started and David Montgomery was out for that game, the line was, I think it opened at Packers -4, and then it closed -5. And now you're out to 12.5. And, the Packers have been good, but they've been, they were at that time, they were 4-1 and the Bears were 2-3. So you made some adjustments. I think that this line should be probably around 10. And so I do agree that the value is with the Bears. And in that game, the Packers won 24-14, and there were some questionable calls made against the Bears. There was a 4th and 4 free play, 3rd and 4 free play, but they didn't call the offsides, clear offsides, and Fields just thought it was a free play. By the way, that happened to the Bills, and they didn't call it on the Patriots. And Fields just threw it up, as he should, because it's a free play, and it was picked in the end zone. But in that game, the Packers ended up scoring late, a touchdown late, and then Aaron Rodgers, talked shit, said, "I own you." So don't sleep on that. The locker room, these are still professionals for the Bears, right? We own you. I think that they'll be fired up for this game. Packers kind of sitting nice and fat and happy, and they've covered so much that they're definitely overvalued here. But in that game with Fields and Robinson not playing, the Bears were in it. It was, the yardage was 323 to 277. So I think that they can move the ball on the ground. The only turnover in the game was that pick that was on the free play. I agree with you. All right. For my third pick of the Sunday 6-pack and the 6th overall, I'm going with the Carolina Panthers -2.5 at BetMGM at home against the Atlanta Falcons. This game is awful. I can't believe I'm taking the Falcons. I can't believe I'm taking the Panthers.
Freudian slip.
After what I, after what I saw from Cam Newton against the Dolphins. Panthers coming off of a bye here. This is, as crazy as it sounds, this is a true elimination game. I can't believe the Falcons are even in that discussion, but with an extra wild card, right now they are one game out of the final wild card spot. Yeah. That's insane. So the loser of this game goes to 5-8. Good night, you're done. Winner goes to 6-7 and has a shot. And the Panthers, Cam Newton looked terrific, and there's no two ways about it. He couldn't throw the ball, but I think against this I just think this Falcons team is terrible. I make this line 4, and this Falcons team, again, still from a DVOA perspective, they're dead last in the NFL. And even if you look at weighted DVOA, which weights recent results, they're still bottom 5. I mean, they're all been awful all year. Here are their wins, right? They have 5 wins. I think their estimated wins are 2.5. Well, they beat, let's see who they beat. They beat the Giants by 3 when the entire Giants team got hurt in the second half. You remember that game?
Yes,
all the position players went down. They beat Zach Wilson in London earlier in the year. They beat Trevor Siemian by 3. All these were by 1 possession, by the way. They beat the Dolphins early in the year when they were a mess by 2. In the game, the Dolphins should have won, I think. And then they beat the Jags by 1 possession last week. Those are their wins. Jags, Dolphins is a mess. Trevor Siemian, Zach Wilson in London, and the Giants when their whole team got hurt, all by one possession. I mean, this is a really bad team. There's still no Calvin Ridley. Panthers are coming off of a bye. Fired Joe Brady. A little bit of an unknown, some surprise factor. What's the offense going to look like? But, I don't trust Cam Newton to throw much. Didn't last year, don't this year. But at least he's not going to be under any pressure. Falcons are dead last in NFL pressure. They get none. So at least Newton won't have any pressure. And I think the Panthers are going to come out and they're going to lean on their run game here. And you can run on the Falcons. Falcons don't give up a lot of explosive runs, but you can move the ball methodically against Atlanta. They're 32nd, not only are they 32nd adjusted sack rate, they're 32nd in power success rate. Like you can just get those 3 to 4 yards. Cam Newton, I think, running the ball will be a huge factor here against any running quarterback who wasn't dealing with an injury this year. Running quarterbacks against the Falcons, like Hurts, Daniel Jones, Tua, Trevor Lawrence. Let's throw Sam Darnold in here. For the last game, he ran eight times for 66 yards against the Panthers. Against the Falcons.
Yeah.
He had the opposing quarterbacks in those games have averaged 7.3 yards per carry. So I think Cam Newton can have some success running the ball. This Falcons team is just terrible in all phases. And I don't see the Panthers basically had 2 weeks to prepare off of an awful defensive effort. I think their defense at home here, a must win. Crowd will be on their side. Their defense is going to play up here. And last time the Matt Ryan faced his defense, it was a disaster. He did absolutely nothing. I think they threw for 140 yards. They basically have to come into this game and say, all right, let's cover Kyle Pitts and let's look at the film and find out how we're taking away Cordarrelle Patterson. That's it. The Falcons can't run it at all. Panthers can just be balls to the wall. I'm going after Matt Ryan here, an immobile, statuesque Matt Ryan, and we have to cover 2 guys. That's it. I think this is an easy defensive assignment for the Panthers. I think getting them under a field goal, there's value here after what we saw from Cam Newton 2 weeks ago. I think this Falcons team is a joke, a bottom 5 team. They have 5 joke wins. So I'll take the Panthers coming off a bye at home with the only competent unit in this game, above average competent unit, is the Panthers defense. I think December game at home in division, I think that'll ultimately be the difference.
And you got Matt Ryan outdoors, which he was bad indoors. 20 of 27 for 146 with a touchdown and 2 picks. Indoors. He's always worse outdoors. So I agree. I'll have more in this game when we talk about the total. Probably not a surprise where I'm going to go if you listen to this podcast a ton. But that's going to wrap it up for the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack. As a recap, Stuckey is going with.
And by the way, Gilmore didn't play in that game. They've added Gilmore since.
Oh, yeah. No one's going to be open for Atlanta. But yeah, Sunday 6-pack, Week 14. Stuckey going with Cleveland -2.5 against Baltimore, Buffalo +3.5 at Tampa, and the Panthers -2.5 hosting the Falcons. I'm going with the 49ers -0.5 point against the Bengals, Baltimore +2.5 going head-to-head with Stuckey here at Cleveland, and then the Bears +12.5 at Green Bay. That is going to do it for the 6-pack presented by Athletic Brewing Company.